This is BaslerCast, tutorials for Mr. Basler's physics class. This video's topic, learning how to use LoggerPro for video analysis. Now let's take a look at what LoggerPro can do as far as video analysis. This is a video that I recorded just using a digital camera and set it to its movie mode and recorded some motion. The first thing I had to do though is put something in the video that I know the length of. So in this case I used basically it's a sawbuck. It's used for carpentry. And I know the distance from here to here is 1.2 meters. And knowing that, I can scale the rest of the entire video. But first let's back up. How do you get the video in here in the first place? Well, that's simple. You just go to Insert and then Insert Movie, and you choose your video, and the video will pop up. It'll usually be kind of tiny at first, so you can adjust the size of it. I like to make it as big as possible by grabbing one of the corners and dragging the size so it's as big as you can, so you can see what you're doing. Then your next step is to start looking at some of the video analysis tools that are available, and that is done by hitting this button down at the bottom. And that pops open a bunch of buttons that will allow you to analyze the video. Now think of it this way. The top part, those are ways, those buttons add things to your video and begin the analysis. The bottom three buttons, those things hide or show some of the things that you added to the video. So let me give you an example. Let's start with this ruler button right here. The ruler button is what's used to set the scale. So if I click that, I'm going to add something to my video, and I'm going to add the scale. So I'm going to just drag it across the top of this sawbuck, and I said that this is a 1.1 meter long sawbuck, and now what that will do is scale the entire portion of the video and set everything up so that I know the distances everywhere on the video. Now if I don't want to see that anymore, and right now it's not a big deal, but sometimes it gets in the way, down here you can hide it, and so this toggles back and forth so you can see it. The next thing I want to do is I want to set the origin. Now I can set essentially the origin, what is 0, 0, anywhere. I do that by first clicking the button up here, which is the origin button, and I can click it anywhere I want, and then I can drag it pretty much anywhere I want. I should tell you though that this area where the little circle dot is, that's positive space, so positive in the X, and everything opposite is obviously negative in the X, and then we have positive in the Y and negative in the Y. I'm going to, just to be different, I'm going to put the origin over here, and then I'm going to spin it, and you can click and drag, spin it around. And that's because to give you a different perspective here, the origin can really be set anywhere you want. So in this video, many of the people of the drivers, you'll see, as the cyclists, you'll see, will be going towards the origin. They'll be in positive space and cycling toward the origin, and then they'll be into the negative space afterwards. So I'm just going to set it right there, and now this is one of those things where you don't want to see it after a while, so I'm going to use this button over here to toggle and hide it. So you can always come back and say, okay, where was that origin? And then you can hide it, and that's a helpful thing to have. Now let's begin analyzing some of the motion. Here is our first cyclist, and what you want to do is you want to pick one spot on, in this case, the bicycle, that you'll be able to see for the entire length of the video. Now she's going this way, off out of the frame, basically. So I think I'm going to use the training wheel here. I'm going to use that little spot, and what I want to do is I want to add a dot every time she moves. So I'm going to put a click there, and if you notice now, that dot is where she was. In the next frame, we've moved forward. The video automatically moves you forward a frame. You want to click the dot again, so click that same spot. I'm clicking the center of the training wheels, and what it's doing is it's noting the time in the video and where this position is. You're telling basically the computer where the bicycle is in each spot. You just kind of go through this entire process, and it takes a little bit of time, so I'm going to pause it and come back to it in a second. And there's the rest of the dots. There's one more dot right there, and now she's completely off the screen. So we're finished doing the dots for that particular scene. Now let's move the video forward a little bit, and we see that there's going to be another cyclist coming on. Oh, there he is. and I've moved it forward. So what's best here is probably his training wheel again. So right there is the second cyclist's training wheel. Now, if I start using the same dots that I was using, if I just keep clicking, it'll be another string of blue dots, and it's like kind of like telling the computer, hey, this is the same cyclist that went off the screen, and now it's jumped over here. That'd be like an old Pac-Man video game, but that's not the case. So what we need to do is set up another set of dots. So this button here allows you to add another series. Right here is the first XY. We want to add point series. What that means is we want to add another set of data. So we start doing that, and we start clicking over here with the new dot, and you'll notice that the color has changed to red. And so now you repeat the process with your second cyclist and go through that whole process again. I've added a couple more points, as you can see. I want to just point out, let's say I made a mistake. I'm just, adding the little dots, and I accidentally clicked over here on the neighbor's garage. And that's like, oh, great, that's totally wrong. There's a way around this. You can go up here and choose the select arrow, go around it and click on it like that, and then simply just press delete on your keyboard, and it's gone. And then you just go back to the buttons, and you can go back. Now you're a frame forward, so you have to back frame a little bit down here on the timeline. Just click one back to where you intended to be and redo that, and then you just mosey on for the rest of the video. And now you can see cyclist 2 is finished. So let me advance this forward and see if there is a third cyclist, and there he is. He's the older brother, so he's going to go and do something a little bit different. So again, I'm going to see his back wheel leave over here. So I think I'm going to use his back wheel for his video. Now remember, you got to add another set. So here's XY was the first cyclist, Y2 is the second cyclist. Now we have to add a third cyclist. So when we do this, you can kind of notice that these dots are a little bit of a nuisance now. They're in the way. So one of the things you can do is toggle them and turn them off. And then as I add this, this is a different color. It's sort of a fuchsia or a pink color. What it does is it shows only the previous dot, and you can go through and add all the dots for your third cyclist. You could turn it back on and see everything, but they get a little mixed up here, and I don't like that, so I turn them off if the screen gets a little busy. And so what you're going to do is just fill out and finish the rest of that cyclist and get all of your dots on the screen. Okay, you're finished. Everything is on the screen. You got 3 sets of dots. You did everything. One of the best things to do is just click over to the arrow, and I would just shrink this down. Actually, there's a better trick. If you do Control R, it arranges the screen, kind of shows everything. So you have your video snuck to the side here because you don't need to really have it big anymore. You're done analyzing it. Here are your 3 sets of data. There's data for the first cyclist. There's data for the second cyclist and data for the third cyclist. That's X and Y are the first one, X and Y2 are the second one, and then our third cyclist is here. And you don't see the data because he started, driving much later. Because they didn't drive at the same time. So that's everything shifted over here. Now the graph over here plots all 3 cyclists in the X and the Y. Now my kids are not jumping through the air, no Dukes of Hazzard style here, so we're not concerned about their up and down motion. We're only concerned about their left to right motion. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on here. I'm going to go to More, and I'm going to uncheck all the Y's because, like I said, they're not jumping through the air yet. Okay, so now we have a graph of the 3 cyclists. Our first cyclist is it's just by time here. You can see our first cyclist is the first one to go as far as the clock goes, and then as time goes by, the next cyclist came flying by, and finally the last cyclist. Now if you notice, the first cyclist starts in front of the origin and heads towards it and then goes past the origin. This is the origin right here, 0, 0. We mark that right here. We can show it. There was the origin. So the first cyclist came towards it and then went past it. And then the second cyclist did the same thing, about the same speed, maybe a little bit faster, hard to say how steep this is. And then the last cyclist went the opposite direction, almost essentially started at the origin and moved away from the origin at a constant rate. Now this graph, you can mess with this, you can adjust the sides, you can say, okay, I want to stretch this out and only look at the first cyclist first. You can do that by adjusting the axes down here, or you can simply go again and just go and say I want X, and so there's the first cyclist right there, and you have everything that you need. And from this point, it boils down to just analyzing a graph and analyzing data. One of the first things you might want to do is say, hey, what is the slope of this? And slope, or another way to look at it, is regression line. And there's a button up here already that says linear fit, or R equals for regression lines. So you click that on there, and what it does is it gives you the slope of that line. And in this case, the cyclist's slope for cyclist 1 is -3.237 meters per second. So that's how fast she was traveling. So that's a good start into video analysis. You got first you got to get yourself a video. You get in the frame of the video. Make sure you have something that you can set the scale. I use this Sawbuck. I have coffee on the brain. I use this right here, and you just start recording it, and then you bring it into LoggerPro using Insert Movie. And then once you're in LoggerPro, this little button here gives you all the tools you need. These are the tools for adding things to the movie, and these are the tools for hiding and displaying the things that you added. And you click on through. Once you're done, click that Control R, and that kind of lays it out nicely as you see here. And then you can go to your video analysis, and probably what you want to do is just add different things by clicking on the y-axis. That's it for video analysis in LoggerPro. Well, I hope you found this video tutorial helpful, and once again, thanks for listening.